Welcome and happy Easter. I'm going to show you how to make the best crawfish that you can get. Uh, First thing that you need is crawfish. And this is a bag that I just broke open. And I usually get the jumbo. And this is the large bag that's available at most crawfish places. And this is actually a restaurant that sells crawfish here in Magnolia, Texas. And the most important process is to go through your crawfish just to make sure what's alive and what's dead. The dead crawfish will definitely ruin your batch. So they do play dead, like this guy is very dead. This is what a dead crawfish looks like. There'll be no movement, they'll be very flimsy, and these have to be discarded. There's absolutely no use for them other than maybe fish bait if you choose to do that. So I basically take the dead crawfish and place them to the side, and I put the good crawfish in the container that I'll be using. So let's get started. One last item. There's a proper way to pick up a crawfish without getting yourself clawed. And if you grab them behind the tail like this, there's no way they can reach back and pinch you. So if you want to make sure he's or she's dead or alive, this is a good way to test them. And in the bucket they go. I like to use a spatula. It's fast and it gives you the opportunity to really see if they're good or not just by scooping them. And I just put them back in the bucket. See you in a minute. Okay, so now we got the crawfish all cleaned up. And this is what I got out of the bag that were dead. I'm going to say probably about 12 of them, which is not too bad. You do want to expect to have several dead crawfish, usually 12 to 15 in a bag. And we will be using this Loco cooker. It is 100 quart, and the good thing about this cooker is that it actually has the ability to let your crawfish settle on the bucket with a lid, and that lets it drain. As far as ingredients, it's all the typical stuff that you typically would use and see. We like this Louisiana crawfish boil. It's actually available at most grocery stores. We buy ours from HEB, and we use the Louisiana crawfish shrimp boil to give it some extra spice. And I do like the Zatarain's crab boil, which is something we add to it. Now we do crawfish and we also do snow crab and shrimp, and it is a process that takes probably about a good 40 minutes to an hour after your water is boiled before it's all said and done. We use oranges to put in the water as part of the flavor. We use fresh garlic, onions, limes. You have to have celery. It gives it a really good flavor, and we love small red potatoes. And we'll put all this mixture together in a little bit and get back with you to show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, so the next step is a very important step, and this is where you really have to make sure they really are clean after you've removed the dead ones. And by running a hose, I have a very well drained area in the back. My container is open, so it will allow the dirty water to come through, and I will just allow this to soak. and we'll let that soak for probably a good 30 minutes or so until the water comes out completely clean. So I'm going to move those around and we'll get started. In the meantime, we do have our family coming over today, so we put some extra chairs in a tent. Fortunately, the weather is good today, and even though it looks a little muggy, we have no rain expected, so we should be in pretty good shape. Okay, now that you got the water boiling, or partially boiling, it's time to add the spices. And we're going to add these one at a time and stir it in and let it soak in for probably a good 30 minutes before we start adding the ingredients. Depending how spicy you like it, add half if you don't like spicy food to about 50 quarts. I'm using an entire bag, which is 4.5 pounds of crawfish, shrimp, and crab oil. Now I'm adding about 2 pounds of Zatarain's crab oil. Remember, we are putting crawfish and crab legs in our oil. And this is probably less than half, but this is all I've got. So that's what's going in. Next, I put the Louisiana Crawfish and Crab shrimp oil. This is 16 ounces. Finally, I'd like to put some basil leaves to my mix. And a good spatula. You could already smell the spices. It's incredible. Okay. Now I will filter up a little bit, and we'll let that boil for a good 30 more minutes until it starts boiling, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, up next, a very important step is to add some citrus. We use orange, lemon, and some tangerines. And the key here is to get this into your pot by taking an orange, squeezing it, putting the whole thing in the pot. Okay, now we have all of our lemons, tangerines, and lime in the pot. And just let those soak. We will eventually put the celery next with the onions and the potatoes and the garlic at different intervals, and we'll demonstrate what that looks like here in a bit. So it definitely is a myth that you do not have to add salt to your crawfish to purge them. Simply keeping them washed and clean is all it takes. And you will know if it's clean because the water from the back will run clear, and that's the way you want it. So next step here is to add some celery and onions, which I pre-chopped. And it's important to cut your onion from the root to keep it all intact and it will not come apart. And yes, keep the peel on it. It keeps it together. There you go. And we're gonna let that simmer for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll add the potatoes next. So while we're waiting on the water to boil with the citrus, and before people ask, yes, these are tomato, green pepper, peach trees, and grapevines that I like to grow. It's still very early spring here, and as you can see, the grapes are starting to bud. But tomatoes are great to grow, even though they could look shabby. You could trim them to have them actually look pretty decent. That's an avocado tree. This is a cherry tree, which is starting to bud. The tomato plants traditionally do really well, and they always have. My wife and I always have grown tomato plants, and we enjoy growing them and put them in pots, obviously. We do start them out with seeds. We grow cilantro, tomatoes, jalapenos, and also, believe it or not, we grow purple hull peas. And my wife has the best recipe for purple hull peas, and I plan on making a video once they're grown and to show you how we grew them. But the key is cooking them, and we'll have that in a future video. Back to cooking. Okay, up next is the potatoes. It's very important to use the red potatoes. We like the really small ones. Not only do they cook quicker, but for some reason they taste better with a crawfish and crab boil. And we got these again from, I believe, H-E-B. We usually get everything from there, but most grocery stores will have that. So the beauty about having this is you can just take the whole bag and just dump the whole bag into the crawfish boil. And by now, this is what our mixture looks like. It's nice and hot. The citrus smells amazing with the spices. And simply put, after washing them very well, just drop them in. And we will put the garlic in next. I typically put my garlic and potatoes in at the same time, and I leave them with this skin on them. It will separate very nicely once the mixture is cooked. Again, it keeps the garlic together and will not overcook by doing so. As you can see, the onions are turning very nicely with the spices in them. And that's what you want, is the spices to work their way into all of the ingredients and work themselves together. Again, we're going to cover this up for about another 20 minutes or so, and we'll check on the potatoes. Okay, up next is going to be some sausage. We do use jalapeno and regular original mesquite. Frozen corn is excellent because it will cool down the water. Some frozen shrimp, and of course the crab legs. And we'll be adding all these ingredients here next. Now that the potatoes are almost ready, it's time to add the mushrooms. And the best way to test your potatoes is by piercing a knife, which I already did. And we'll let these cook for about 10 minutes and mix it in. The potatoes cook for a total of about 25 minutes. And we'll check on it in a few minutes. Okay, so I basically transferred all those ingredients into this cooler, and a lot of smoke. Potatoes are perfectly cooked, and all the ingredients are nicely mixed. So now we do the meats. So I put all the live crawfish in this container. It's going straight into the cooker. Sausage. Corn. So I just added the sausage and the corn to the crab. Actually, to the crawfish, sorry. So now I have sausage, crawfish, and corn cooking. It's time to slow down the heating process. So crawfish cooks in a few minutes. However, you want the spices to blend in, so you keep it on very low temp. Okay, so we got the shrimp, corn, sausage, crawfish, and next is the snow crabs. And the snow crabs are frozen, which will cool it down, which is what we want because they are already pre-cooked. And basically, I just take the clusters and see how this turns out. And this is what it looks like when it's all said and done. Now I'm going to just let it simmer and pick up some juices nice and cool. And here's my brother-in-law and my wife.
Brother-in-law.
I'm sorry, my son-in-law.
It's all
We're,
right.
we're like brothers,
I
but
thought
who
it was
cares?
Somebody else in the bag. So
Yeah. Sorry about that. But and here's a crawfish.
What
It's
am
all
I?
good.
Chopped liver?
I said, and there's my one. I made video. How is it, Liz?
Awesome. This is delicious.
You like it, Heather?
What an Easter feast. It's very flavorful. Look at all this.
All right. And that's a wrap. Say bye, Heather. And that was amazing. And now time for some salt. And he didn't have any crawfish, but he will like crawfish. What'd you think?
I don't think so.
Hey guys, so you're gonna be in my video.
Hey. Hey.
So how's the crawfish?
Awesome. Oh, don't eat me.
All right. Okay, everybody. Happy Easter. You'll be on YouTube.
Brenda's playing with her food.
She's playing with her food. Okay. All right.
She's not eating it, she's playing with
And that's a wrap. So my sister-in-law made this wonderful cheesecake with cherries, homemade.
Here's the strawberry.
And here is the strawberry cheesecake. Wow. Now that makes this crawfish boil complete. Well done, Revo.
Thank you.
Good job.